Welcome back, Ryan. What's up, buddy?
Not much, man. How are you?
Man, loving life. Man, I had a pork butt on the smoker today. Delicious,
Yeah.
right? You loved that, didn't you?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, man, it's good stuff. So, I'm feeling pretty good. You know, I like my meat. any way I can get more of my meat in my own mouth, I'm loving it. And
some Marilyn Manson stuff.
Yeah, some Marilyn Manson stuff. You take that for what's worth. Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Right of Center podcast. We call ourselves ROC Podcast Nation. You know that. Time to let a friend know. Make sure you go ahead and hit that share button.
Turn that volume down while you listen up to us.
Yeah, that ain't me. That's got to be you. Oh, wait. Where's that sound coming from? I swear that's coming from you. But anyhow, guys, welcome back to another episode of ROC Podcast Nation with yours truly at Real Mike Bell. My co-host over there,
Ryan R. Gas.
Ryan R. Gas.
Now, it's almost irrelevant now that I say that because it's not like anybody's going to search that and find my Facebook.
Not your Facebook, but you're still Ryan R. Gas on Instagram and other stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't change the fact that you are Ryan R.
I am
Gas. Yeah.
Ryan
You're just
R.
not
Gas.
at Ryan R. Gas anymore.
I don't know if I told you. I don't know if I told everybody yet, but like I even made I said, fuck it. Because I told you, I said, fuck it. I'm not gonna make any more. I'm not going to put any more effort into it. And I wasn't going to put a lot of effort into it, but I did attempt, when I was on that trip in Texas, I tried to make a new account. And I tried to make it the real Ryan R. Gas.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did. And I posted for a day or two, and then Facebook banned that one. And their excuse was the fact that it was a replica or it was a new profile for a profile that they already deleted. Which they have yet to acknowledge or state why they deleted my original one.
Man, I'm telling you, you can't
win.
You can't win with those guys.
Tell you, man.
You know, Ryan, right? We just talked about that in the. We talked about something similar last week, talking about the Fired Act with Fauci and how Facebook is now allowing people to post about the theory that is the Wuhan flu, right? The Chinese flu, COVID-19 was originated in a lab. Now Facebook's kind of walking that back, and they're letting people kind of.
On that one topic,
right. But we talked about it last week, and it was something I wanted to bring up a little bit more here. Trust, right? Last week we talked about society's trust, if you will, in the CDC and for that matter, even your local health department, your Surgeon General, different stuff like that, right? And society in general is pretty skeptical about things related to their health, as I would say, as they should be, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's only really a couple of guarantees in life, and one of those guarantees in life is that you're going to die.
And taxes.
And taxes, depending on where you live, right?
Yeah.
Or if you're Donald Trump, right? Because you can just get away with whatever you want, never have to prove to anybody you pay taxes.
Yeah.
But one thing for sure is that you're going to die.
Yeah. And
one way to prevent that or to extend your life is to maintain some measure of good health. And, you know, those people that try to tell you all about health and what you should be doing and this and that and this and that, arguably you're going to be a little bit skeptical about that, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're some fucking know-it-all who thinks, excuse my language, forgot, we're on the free show. If you're some know-it-all that's, trying to be, eating cheeseburgers all day, but then telling everybody you go to the gym every night. Yeah. Okay. You're probably not going to be as squared away as you should be.
Related, I'm going to take a sidetrack, but what's that guy's name that's, was the Health and Human Services Secretary? He's mentally, he's a man that thinks he's a woman, and he's the one that's in charge of health and human services.
Yeah,
he's got some health problems, some mental health problems. I'm not trying to make fun of the guy. I'm not trying to make fun of the guy, but how do you put a mentally deranged man in charge of health and human services?
Well, you don't, Ryan.
They did.
No, you put a deranged woman in charge of health and human services.
Well, if he's truly a woman, is he really deranged then? And that's their belief is, oh, well, he's not deranged, or she's not deranged. She's a she. Well, no, that dick he was born with says otherwise.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
I'm not.
I don't want to beat that up. I don't want to beat that up, dude. But what we will do here is I'll go ahead and just throw this up on a live stream, and if people want to
no pun intended,
come up with their own determination of this woman.
He looks like he's got some.
Let's be PC here, buddy. I mean, it is Pride Month, right? And
we don't want to assume it's gender, so let's just say it.
You know what?
It's
Somebody
pretty
said
safe.
something, and this isn't like a trans bash or anything episode, guys. Ryan and I are both on record saying we support your right to happiness.
Yeah.
And if, genetic going through that kind of treatment is making you a happier person, it's
Yeah.
going to help you sustain your quality of life the way you want, more power to you, right? We just don't want it being pushed on our kids.
Right.
But so the whole theory of, pronouns. One of my friends out in Arizona, and they actually ran for office, wasn't very successful at it because they're too fucking real, excuse my language, for most people. But she put on this post that she put out there for everybody that said, what one pronoun that works for everybody is me, right? All this other stuff, like they incorporates more than one person.
Yeah, it's always confusing.
Like, or them, it's like,
that's plural.
It's me. Right. Yeah. And you want to talk to me, my plural is me, but, and it's a little bit complicated, like, hey, go tell me this or that. Right. But still at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, it's a little bit wonky, but, I guess this really isn't the episode to be discriminatory of transsexuals or anything. 'Cause we're not. I mean, I have, and this is an old card. It's played a lot, guys. So don't beat me up for this, but I've got gay people in my family, you know what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean that I support the gays. I mean, that's like that whole, an unweighted type argument where like, oh, just because you got a black friend doesn't mean you're not racist type thing. Right.
I got
it's
a
like,
black friend.
Yeah. It ain't that.
All right, Joe Biden.
Yeah. But that's not, that isn't this. All right. Ryan and I support everybody. You're right to the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? I always botch that, but life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are yours. They're basically decreed in the Constitution, and Ryan and I support that. And so you want to go out and do those kind of things, more power to you. Please, please, please stop trying to push it in the schools. Stop trying to push sexualization in the schools. Ryan, you know what? In fact, I think we'll probably take a break here for an hour or two after this episode. And I've got a lot of other stuff queued up for another episode about kind of the trans movement and stuff. So we might actually get back on that tonight, guys. So if you're live streaming now, come back a little bit later. We'll be going back for round 2 tonight for that. And if you're only listening to the audio podcast, right, this will be coming out, sometime in the next 7 days. So, but Ryan, what I wanted to talk to you tonight about was, we were touching on the public's trust, right? And let's just talk about trust in general. It means something. There was an old saying that, the only thing a man has in this world is his word and his balls, right? And the rest of that saying goes, I ain't breaking them for anybody. Unless you're
you may not have balls.
Dr. Rachel Levine. Actually, let me bring that off the screen there. I don't want people bugging out on that while I'm trying to have a good, serious conversation here. But you only got 2 things in life. You got your word and you got your balls, right? And don't break them for anybody. And as a father of a couple of boys here, and even my daughter, I always tell them, I say, trust is something important, respect, trust, integrity, it's a foundation, it's a building block for life. And when you start to compromise somebody else's ability to trust you, you're essentially powerless, right? And Ryan, recently you and I have kicked around the idea of trust in the government. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to walk you into a position of being more trustworthy. And you were pretty much telling me I was dumb as F, right? Because I trust the government too much. And it got me thinking, it said, where's the medium? Is most of the country like Ryan, where he trusts the government 20%? Or is most of the country like me, where we trust the government around 80%? And when I say trust, what I ultimately mean is, I gotta break this down, okay? So I know damn well that there are people in Congress that do not have Mike Bell's best interest. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that they don't have society's best interest. Our perception, our ideologies may be such that their vision of the best interest of the United States doesn't align with mine. So that doesn't mean that I can't trust them to do the right thing. I just can't trust them to do the right thing in my opinion. Does that make sense?
You don't trust their judgment.
I don't trust their judgment.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't trust it. It's that I don't agree with their judgment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, like what I tell people is it's similar to like the red flag laws. I know there's some that have bad intentions, but I'm sure that some people that support red flag laws do so with the greatest intentions.
Yeah, most people
there's
do.
great intentions there, but we've seen it time and time again, too many times. I think one time's more than enough, but too many times we've seen it taken advantage of and used in the wrong way, and that's why I don't support and I never will support red flag laws. But the people that do and created that idea and blah blah, I don't think that they're horrible people. I don't think that they were doing it. Not all of them were doing it in a way that was mischievous and whatnot. But that's not the whole situation though.
That's right. And so I was like, for instance, right, there's a large portion of Congress today that is pushing for more relaxed voting laws, or laws isn't even really the word, right? Policy. They're pushing for more gun restriction. They're pushing for, more abortion rights, women's rights, pro-choice type stuff, right? They're pushing for a lot of stuff. Now, although that doesn't necessarily agree with my interpretation of the way that the world should be operating, it does agree with what they're doing, and they have constituents, right? And their constituents trust them. Now, does that mean I can't trust them to have the best interest of America at heart? And that's where we kind of find ourselves in this philosophical type debate that I wanted to have you walk this journey with me today, Ryan. So, as you guys know, we don't do a lot of show prep here. Ryan and I like to just talk about stuff. This isn't a political podcast. This isn't a bash on Biden or, draw.
It's a political podcast. Let's put it that way.
Well, we often touch on a lot of political stuff, but, life, the reason why it's political is because a lot of the decisions that are made on Capitol Hill impact our everyday lives. And Ryan and I are two everyday, middle class, right of center American men who feel like the left is really trying to infringe upon our God-given right to the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Mm-hmm. That's why it generally focuses on things that are happening in politics. But, sometimes, and we haven't really gotten into it yet, but oftentimes we'll talk about parenting, we'll talk about other stuff, right? We've had episodes on finance and how the government has their hands in that too. I mean, but trust, all right? Let's try to keep it together here. Trust. And I started doing some digging. I said, where is most of the country at? Right? Are they more like Ryan? Are they more like me? Where does the majority of government kind of live? And I found this poll that I thought was very interesting. And I want to pull this up.
And while he's doing that, if you guys can, if you're watching this, whether live or otherwise, comment below and let us know what your opinion is. How much do you trust the government? Do you trust the government blindly 100%? Are you about 20% like me, or are you somewhere in the middle? Let me know what you think, honestly.
All right, so don't look at the screen yet, Ryan. Okay. Don't look at the screen. I want to get your live react. Okay. So give me a second, Rock Nation. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up on the screen. For those of you guys, again, always listening to the audio stuff, we respect, we love and appreciate you guys. You guys are turning out in numbers over there on the audio side only. So we really appreciate that. But I want to go ahead and pull this up on the screen here and let you guys know and let you guys see what I'm talking about. Okay. So Ryan, if you had to guess, here's a question. Okay. Don't look at the screen.
Sorry.
All right. How many Americans say they can trust the government in Washington, D.C. to do what is right just about always or most of the time?
How many people trust that much?
Percentage. All right. And I'll rephrase. I'll say it again. How many Americans, like what percentage of Americans say they can trust the government in Washington to do what is right just about always or most of the time?
I'm not going to get into meat and potatoes and ask you how this poll was done and who they polled. But I would say a lot of dumb people nowadays, about 70%. About 70%.
Okay. What number would surprise you? Like both ends, right?
It
Like,
would surprise me if you said 90. It would surprise me if you said 30.
what if I told you can look at the screen now? What if I told you that only 22% of Americans trust the government most of the time?
Okay.
So that's going to give you, look at you got a little bit of faith in the country now, don't you?
I got a little bit of perk in my step. Damn.
Look at that. Here we go, guys. Again, audio only, but the live stream, as you see this. Look, Kenny got it. 20%, maybe a little less. Yeah, I mean, you're right on point, dude.
Damn.
Yeah, about 20%. And now what this graph does, guys, again, this is Pew Research, and everybody out there in the audience, you know who Pew Research is. You've heard of them. Yeah, pew pew. That's Ryan's kinds of research. You know what? I actually think that's one of Joe Biden's former researchers too. What did Joe Biden say about pew pew? What did he say?
Buy a shotgun.
Buy a shotgun. That's what he got. He also said this. Now I'm going to actually run through these. What else did Joe Biden say? He said this.
Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
Yeah, that's what he said. What else did he say, Ryan?
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Yeah, that's also something Trump said. He said a lot of other stuff too, and but we'll get into that later. But
Such an ignorant old man.
yeah, oh my God, I feel sorry for his family.
Yeah.
I feel sorry, you know.
Seriously though, like, yeah, I feel kind of sorry for him too. I mean, he's not all together there.
Yeah.
So,
But here we go. All right, let's jump up to the chart here. So for those of you guys on audio only here, what we're looking at is a chart that spans from about 1958 all the way up to present day. And what it shows is the country's, the population's level of trust among the government, public trust in government over the past basically 50 something years.
I'm decent on history, but I'm kind of having a brain fart right now. What happened in 1965 to start that big decline?
That was Vietnam.
Okay.
It was Vietnam. It was also Martin Luther King, all through this area, right? So you had Eisenhower that came in. He was so for those of you guys that don't know, and my dad should probably kick my ass if I got this wrong, right? But Eisenhower was a war general, right? And he was so in World War II, right? And he was he adopted a lot of like the legislative type logistical stuff from World War II. And I believe it was Eisenhower that really started, or was that Roosevelt, Franklin D. Roosevelt?
No, Eisenhower with the, are you talking about the military
Industrial complex.
Yes,
and
yes.
But who was it who did the infrastructure,
speech.
the roads? Is that FDR?
FDR, I want to say.
Yeah, okay, I might have it wrong, but yeah, so that was Eisenhower, right? But it just in general. Now I'm going to pull up some other plots here in a minute. So we're talking about Eisenhower. Eisenhower was down there in the early '60s, right? So Eisenhower did really well. He was a Republican. This was during the time of the civil rights, all that other stuff. And then you get into Kennedy. Everyone loved Kennedy. Kennedy was assassinated, obviously. We all know that, right? But who right was the question? Lee Harvey Oswald, or what about that magical shot, the second shooter?
I wonder how old was Hillary Clinton back then, and how bad did he piss her off?
Oh, are you saying that Kennedy get Clinton? I don't know, but I'll be surprised if Fauci doesn't get Clinton.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that's another talk. That's another. Maybe we'll get into that in exclusive stuff.
I think that we're moving into the area where he would be Bidened.
Biden. All right. So, yep. And then in this, here in the '60s, late '60s, you had space wars. We had Martin Luther King, civil rights, all that other stuff, and then landing on the moon and Vietnam. Dropped out of it. But what you can see here on the chart, guys, is we go from about in 1958, about 73% of people in general trusting the government, right? And then it hit basically a 25-year low in 1980 under President Carter. Now, if you guys remember in the 80s and under President Carter is when we had like the big trade embargoes, we had a fuel shortage, inflation went through the roof, economy sucked, right? It was also kind of the dying off of all those really good automobiles, right? Like all the old, Impalas and Mustangs and Camaros and all that stuff from the 70s. Then they went to them shitty ass square bodies,
If you can,
in the 80s.
If you can, see if you can click there.
Oh, you can.
And it'll show maybe like an event that pushed it.
No, it's not going to show an event. But all right, coming out of that, we had Reagan and then Bush and then Clinton and George W. Bush, Obama, Trump, and then Biden. Now, Obama at his highest, trust in the government under Obama at his highest was 25%.
And
Bush at his highest was roughly 49%.
Go back to
his
his
high 54%.
Go back to Obama's peak.
I'm trying to find it. Yeah, it's right here. About 23, 24%.
Okay.
Right? And then at Trump's highest, he was at 24%. And then Biden is hovering right around that 24% right now. But and this data is as relevant as April. All right. So the data is a little bit old, but it's not that bad. It's only a month old, right? And yeah, guys in the comments here saying Biden equals Carter 2.0, and you're 100% right. I mean, we're seeing it all over the place. But again, we want to boil down, we want to distill down to trust, guys. The episode here is about trust. Now, what's interesting is you could kind of click through some of this stuff and look at where this data came from, Ryan, which I know you're a big fan of looking at like where the data came from and what those sources are. If you scroll way down here to the bottom near that 1958 mark, you're going to see that things were pretty much, only very few people are actually reporting on that.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm having a brain fart. What is NES?
I have no idea. Let's Google it real quick. But one thing that I'd noticed from this chart, and it was something that I wanted to bring up, a Democrat has not won back-to-back presidencies. See that, Ryan? Since 1969.
Clinton.
No, Clinton was a Democrat that won twice.
Yeah.
But an opposite Democrat hasn't won 2 terms in a row.
Oh,
You see what I'm saying? So, like, if Clinton would have ran 2 terms and then another Democrat would have picked up instead of George W. Bush, right?
Yeah, it always flip flops in general. Even
Not necessarily. Look, you had Nixon and Ford back to back. You had Reagan and Bush back to back. Right?
Well,
In fact, you had Nixon and Ford. Had Nixon not been impeached, you know what I'm saying? Things would have been a little bit different. But you had, between 1982 and 1994, essentially, you had a Republican in office.
Yeah.
Right? We haven't seen that since. And another thing to look at here was that Trump was the first president not to win. The incumbent did not win re-election since Bush, so since 1993. So in over 20, almost 30 years, Trump was the first person not to win re-election, which is another interesting thing that isn't really detailed on this poll, but it was something that I observed, right? And then we could jump down a little bit more, and there's some more interesting polls here that I wanted to touch on, guys, but this is the important one. What happened between 1964, okay, and 2021? Why did trust in the government diminish from about 77% in 1964 down to 24% in
Nixon definitely
2001?
You said Vietnam, Nixon. Nothing sticks out in my mind during Ford's term. Carter's an idiot. Reagan, it looks like picked up pretty good. He steadily incline up for the most part. Yeah, it's just
What do you think happened? What do you think, Ryan,
a lot of shit.
marked the change? Like, why did people stop trusting the government?
Well, I think there's a lot of stuff. I don't think it's one single thing. I think, the beginning near this area.
So we are audio. We are audio, so we have to talk about
So I think in this area right here, we're talking the initial decline,
which is 64 to about 69. Okay.
I think you got a lot of things going on in that time period where you have the assassination of Martin Luther King, and people think that there's government involvement there. I'm not saying there is, but there's belief that there is there. You got the JFK assassination. You got Vietnam. You got a lot of CIA experiments at that time were happening. I'm not sure if the news of it had really came out really during that time yet, though.
Right.
I think it's a lot of things. I don't think it's one singular thing, though. What do you think?
I think it has to do with polling. Okay. Because if you look,
could be. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I think if you look at it, there hasn't been since the 80s, they're at 32. to today, we're at 24. So in 40 years, although it has bounced up and down a little bit, there's been less than a 10% swing. You know what I'm saying? And what I got to ask, where my mind goes is, who were they polling?
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know? And so let's jump down a little bit. Let's jump down to another poll here, right? Again, this is trust in government among members of party that controls the presidency. What you can see is on this graph, guys, for you audio only listeners, is what you expect. If the Democrat holds the office, there's less trust from Republicans, and vice versa. Where we see some areas of kind of decent overlay is kind of during the Clinton administration, which
Ford.
Yeah, during the Ford administration, although that was very short, right?
Yeah.
Because Nixon was impeached, Ford finished the term. But,
how did Carter ever get in? Golly.
I don't know. I wasn't alive, man.
Like I've talked, and me either, but I've talked to, people that were at that time more or less. And I've talked to people from both sides, the aisle then, that and both sides now. And they're like, I never met anyone that said, yeah, Carter was great. Carter, he was going to do this, going to do that. And Carter was great. I never heard anybody say that.
I think he was the last of the kind of Dixiecrats. I mean, I know that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have pivoted quite a bit in the past 100 years, right? It used to be the Republicans were very, very racist, and the Democrats were more about social reform and boosting up the lower and middle class and the people of color among us. But over time, it had switched. Right. And it's just pretty obvious. I mean, again, I'm not going to get into race here on this podcast, but there has been a pivot, right? It seems as if the Democrats pander more to people of color, whereas Republicans try to hold everybody on the same footing. Some people would call that racist. I don't really call it that, but we're not the same party that we used to be. But wasn't it Carter from Georgia?
Yes. Georgia peanut farmer.
Yep. All right. And he was kind of that last. So if you look at how old Carter was, he's about 50, 60 whenever he was president. Can you pull that up real quick? How old was Carter when he got the office?
Let's see.
Because
also something that happened during his time too was it the 3 Mile Island, the nuclear power plant.
Yeah.
And a lot of shit was going on with that, and a lot of mistrust with that because they dropped the ball a lot on that too.
Right.
I was watching a big documentary. I've watched a couple documentaries on that specific situation.
So a lot of trust issues there. And as you could expect, it seems as if the party that is in power garnishes more trust from their constituents than the opposite.
He was 52 years old when he was elected.
All right. So he's 52 when he got elected. He got elected in 1976.
That's relatively young though, in the overall scheme of things.
So he was born in 76. He was born in the 20s, right? So that means he was 18, 20 coming up in Georgia in the 40s. It was still pretty segregated, right? So it begs the reason, I don't know if he carried any of that with him into office or not, the bigotry. But, we go through time here, and this is just something. What's ironic here is one of the largest spreads that you see is, don't take this the wrong way, all right, guys? But it seems when a Democrat is in power, the Republicans generally trust more than if a Republican is in power. The Democrats trust less. So if you look right here through Clinton, right, the difference between, for you audio guys, I'm pointing up to the screen here. The line between Republicans and Democrats is pretty close.
Yeah.
Right. But if you look over here for Bush, the line between Republicans and Democrats is way far apart. Right. There's a lot less total trust in the government from Democrats when a Republican is in office.
Notice
vice versa.
I noticed the big spikes though in the, and it's because of September 11th. But the big spikes for both Republicans and Democrats during the early year too. Yep. No.
Yes. A lot of trust right here. That's October 6th. Yeah. So it's right after September 11th.
And there's a spike for both Democrat and Republicans. Point out if I'm wrong, but I don't see a huge spike up at the same time for both lines at any point in time. By the way, I'm not a Bush Kool-Aid drinker, by the way. Just want to point that out. But I'm just saying that's something that I see, a nice correlation there.
Yeah. But so that's another thing. And then, we were talking about trust and is it really worth trusting your government? And I don't know, but the data shows us that, most people are kind of in that Ryan camp. you know, and I don't have the full kind of spread of data, but what it does show is that there's about 2% that trust the government just about always, and about 22% that trust the government most of the time. I think Ryan kind of aligns in that, and I thought he was kind of cuckoo, honestly. I thought he didn't trust the government enough. I thought that's kind of got to be an uncomfortable way to walk through life, right? Always kind of just not trusting people. But
I'm just I'm on the majority.
So this is a much more messy chart for you guys on the live stream, right? This shows a lot of different stuff, right? Conservative Republican and leaning Republican, all the way to liberal Democrat and leaning Democrat, right? So that mess is all over the place, but it basically follows the same stuff. But what you can see is this is what another thing, Ryan, that people don't talk about. All right. So Ryan and I are right of center, and I'm not going to sit here and speak for Ryan, but I'm more of a moderate. All right. Moderate to liberal Republican, right? That's kind of where I fit in. And the people that are closest to me, in fact, are conservative to moderate Democrats. I am closer to conservative and moderate Democrats than I am to conservative Republicans.
For me, it depends on the topic. Like guns, I'm far right. I mean, it is what it is. Guns, I'm far right. I'd say abortion, I'm far right. Drugs, I would say I'm pretty moderate. I would say, I don't know. I'd say on drugs, I probably agree more with moderate Democrats, possibly.
You mean conservative moderate Democrats or liberal Democrats? And again, there's more to it. All right. Yeah. You have progressives. Now, this is the thing with the Democrats, and not a lot of them listen to the podcast, but you know, there are progressive, and then there are centrist, and then there are the uber kind of moderate Democrats, and then you have the far left. There's splits in their party, just like there is splits in the Republican Party. Yeah, you know. But I find myself closer on a lot of things to the conservative, moderate to Democrats than I do to the far right. Yeah, and it's just because of who I am and the way I was raised. Right. I mean, I find that investing back into social programs oftentimes is a net positive for society. And that leans me more toward those, conservative, moderate Dems, more than it would to the conservative Republicans. So that's just one of the areas. Oh my God, I want to go ahead and say this right now. And our buddy who always seems to leave feedback on the episodes, I know he's listening to this at some point. He got me on he was not happy with the idea of free college. A lot of people weren't. A lot of people kind of wrote into the show and was like, yeah, we're not signing up for that shit. Nope. Right. People need to earn it. But hey, that's the great thing about America is that everybody's entitled to their opinion. Right. So, I encourage you your right to opinion. What was that you were showing me, Ryan? What do we got?
Just want to show you, we got to bounce back to the main screen.
Oh, yeah. You want to bounce back to the main screen. Shit. I mean,
you got to see what I got to do.
I got to get you in here. Well, there was more to the plot that I wanted to show people here. Right. There was this one here that, which is important. And Boomer. I wanted to ask you something. Right. So this is the Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, Boomer, Silent, and Greatest Generation that I wanted to bring up. Right. So, right. Way back here, but this brought to a point something. The term Greatest Generation. What do you think of when you hear that term, Greatest Generation?
Just means that the new one's the shittiest.
Why, if you were so I guess the question, when I was reading this about the Greatest Generation, what I was thinking was, why haven't the left canceled the term Greatest Generation?
Oh, they just haven't got around to it yet.
You think so?
Oh yeah, they got, like I said, there's a priority list.
I mean, doesn't that make Gen Z feel less than?
Oh,
my
feelings hurt. What do I technically fall under? Millennial?
What year were you born?
90.
Yeah, you're a millennial, I think. Ugh.
I think I'm part of the greatest. I'm the greatest sect of the millennial generation.
Well, I'll tell you. So we're getting into kind of some of the meat and the potatoes here, and this is from. This is what I wanted to talk to Ryan about a little bit, not necessarily just Ryan, but you guys, was about who was being polled. Right now, early on, you had a lot of white and black people being polled, but as we moved into the 90s, right? Then we started to see, look at this, Ryan. Look at this one little red mark right here. Look at that.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I was like, where's the Asians at?
All the way over here in 2000 and 2021.
That is so discriminatory.
It is. And look at this,
Hispanics didn't start till 1991.
Till 1990. Yeah, you didn't get the Hispanic vote. And look who they're trusting, right? Isn't that funny?
Convenient.
Very convenient that if a Republican is in office, the Hispanics don't trust them. As soon as a Democrat gets in office, it spikes, right? And which is funny. No, but which is funny is this, dude. In 1996, Clinton signed a massive immigration reform bill that stopped a lot of migrants from being able to.
Wasn't it Clinton, too, that also used the line, "Make America Great Again"? Was it Clinton?
I don't know. You'll have to look that one up. I thought it was Reagan. You'll have to look. But and then all through the Bush administration, the Hispanic trust fell off. Sketchy with Obama. And then all through Trump, actually in Trump, look at this, dude. In Trump, the Hispanic vote rose.
Well, we knew that.
You don't want to see something else? There toward the end, look at the black vote for Trump.
Yeah.
Started to rise.
Just like the job rate.
The white vote started to rise. And it's just crazy, man. But here's what I do, Ryan, right? So I have these conversations with you, and Ryan and I, we talk offline and stuff like that, but not crazy. And we generally never talk about what we're going to talk about on the podcast episodes because we like this to be pretty organic. But after speaking with you recently and talking about trust in the government, I said, man, is it really that crazy? Am I really that far off? It turns out I was. It's most people are closer to at Ryan R. Gas, right? They're just don't freaking trust the government a lick.
Democrats and Republicans, which I don't know. Maybe I got some soul searching to do, but I just didn't want it to fall off. I wanted to come back. I wanted to talk to you about this and ask you some questions. But what I would like to see too, because we saw that and we saw it between Democrats and Republicans. Honestly, I ain't trying to be whatever, but I'd like to see that poll and I'd like to see it broken down. I want to see the responses from those who are employed by the U.S. government and those who are not, and see what the response is. Honestly, I'm very curious about that because seriously, I'm not going to say most, but I met a lot of people that are less trusting of the government, and they work for them. And I think there's a reason. I think there's a correlation there. They maybe don't trust the government because they know even more about how the government actually operates.
Yeah, there's a theory.
But I think there's some that maybe are literally the opposite way. They trust the government more because they think they know how the government operates and stuff. Like, oh yeah. I mean, honestly, that if you would have asked me that my first year in the Marine Corps, I would have been ultra trusting.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I just didn't know any better.
Yeah. So you want to see the demographics?
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see how that breaks down.
So Trump was the first president since 1993 not to be reelected, right? We talked about that a little bit here. Why do you think that is?
Say again?
Trump was the first president since 1993, so nearly 20 years, nearly 30 years that wasn't reelected. Why do you think that was? Do you think it was just too polarizing, or what's your answer?
Imagine if the media made firestorm of Corona 2020 didn't happen. Imagine if America kept on growing and getting bigger and badder. Imagine. How do you beat that? How do you beat that? I think there's I gotta look more into it, but the Fauci emails have shown.
Don't hit the Fauci emails. We're going to be talking about that coming up in exclusive stuff, guys. So if you don't know about ROC exclusive, all right, it's something that Ryan and I do. We do an episode a week. It's pretty cool. Actually, you know what, Ryan? What I'm going to do here for our guys, for our
give them a little preview.
Yeah, I'll give them a little preview here. I just want to show you guys what you could see if you were on the exclusive stuff. Let me go ahead and share the screen out. Now, I know a few of you boys. Oh, look, we got some beer guys in the audience.
Hey,
welcome
Chris.
back. Yeah. So for you guys that are only listening to the free show, if you come over to rockpodcastnation.com and you pledge your support, super simple to do, guys. In fact, it's free for a week. It's not, and then after that, it's only $10 a month. All right. It's like $250 a week. You get hours and hours of content listening to us. You can engage in the show. You can call in. You can do a lot of stuff like that. Right. But if you want to be a high-speed charger and really, really help us support our mission and spread the right of center message across this country, right? You could be a founding member. Costs a little bit more, guys, but there will only ever be 100 founding members. We got a few of them right now talking to us in the chat. Yep. But once you do that, and this is what I was saying, right? We want to talk about Fauci and his emails, right? Some of that stuff, Ryan and I like to really dig into the weeds and say some stuff that might get us kicked off Facebook and might get us kicked off other stuff, right? So we jump over here, we do it on exclusive. And over here on the website, if you go to ROC exclusive, right, of course you'll have to subscribe to get this, but there's hours and hours and hours of episodes content. And then all these videos, right? I mean, we do the same thing here. So it's not like, we're jumping out on the,
if you want
exclusive stuff.
If you want to just simply listen while you're driving or whatever, you can. If you want to watch our beautiful faces, you can. And again, what you see on this page, this is all exclusive. This is not on the YouTube. You can't just see that shit. This is part of being a founding member or even just a ROC supporter.
That's right. So, guys, if you really want to help us spread the message out, man, you head on over to rockpodcastnation.com, hit that pledge your support button, and help us get going. Absolutely. And one thing, Ryan, and again, I don't want to just turn this into a sales pitch, but one thing that people don't really realize about what we have here is even on the podcast page, right? So if you like listening to the podcast, you could do it right here from the website.
Yep.
Right. All of our podcast stuff is here. But one thing that a lot of people kind of overlook is maybe you don't want to subscribe to the show. Maybe you don't want to pay $10 a month or pay $25 a month to be a founding member.
Still listen to 36 episodes as it currently is.
As it is right now. You can always just come down to the donate button, right? And that's like, you can do 50 cents, $1, something like that. Anything helps, guys, to keep the lights on and help us keep moving. So we would really appreciate that. So
we're already talking about where our money's going toward next. We were talking before this episode. We were talking about revamping the website a little bit, making it a little bit more user friendly.
Oh, that's right.
But like Mikey always says, it honestly kind of annoys me now. Boots cost money.
Boots cost money, man.
Boots cost money.
There was a cadence in the Army. Is boots cost money, right?
Good thing I'm wearing Crocs.
I never got on the Croc game. I wanted to. I wanted to get on the Croc game, man, but I just never did.
They're comfortable. I started wearing them in the Marine Corps because, not on duty and shit, but wearing boots and shit all day and it gets hot and muggy and your feet get all nasty and shit. It's nice to kind of, if you have to wear something, you wear something, but it's airing them out and shit. I was what do they call them? The flip flops with I guess they call them thongs, I guess.
Yeah.
But
like Cisco.
Yeah, that thong. But I wear those a little bit and stuff. But I'd always bust out the thong part. It'd break and shit. Or
Ryan was probably wearing his shower shoes that it was mandated in the Corps. You got to wear your sandals. You got to wear your shoes. You remember having to get those shits?
Cheap little fucking $1 pop.
Man. I saw people wearing them things in like the PX, the basic exchange, the post exchange, all that stuff.
Oh,
it's like, get out of there. Get out of them. Just get out of them.
Yeah.
But, trust, guys. It turns out, most of you are like Ryan. Yeah, about 20% of the country in general think that the government is looking out for them most of the time, right? That means 80% of 80% of society does not trust their government.
I wonder how many people, because that's 80% that don't trust them all the time.
Right.
What part of the, because that's not. That's,
what part? Never trust them?
Or what part of them trust the government only 20% of the time?
I don't know.
That's a more accurate, question that would find out how many really think like the great Ryan R. Gass.
I don't know, but we're coming up on time here, guys, but.
What do you like your trust level? Like mine's probably 20% trust, 80%, you're getting Clinton. Right? What is yours?
Well, we talked about this.
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure because I think you kind of reevaluated.
Yeah, I have reevaluated.
Well, how much do you trust the government?
Well, like I said in the beginning of the episode,
50-50?
No,
60,
no.
40-60?
I'm still probably in that 70, 80% range, but it's what I think. And again, I haven't looked at the survey that we pulled up here, like what the questions actually were, but I think it's more right now, Republicans, some set of the population of Republicans in this country do not trust Democrats at all. Right. And it's because what the Democrats are pushing doesn't agree with what the Republicans are asking for.
By the way, on that note,
right there would say, I don't trust you, but those Democrats are doing what their constituents want them to do.
On that note, I would say that I'm bipartisan in my mistrust or distrust of the government. I don't, do I trust, I guess, Republicans more? Yeah. But do I trust them? I wouldn't use that phrase that I trust them. I wouldn't say that I trust politicians as a whole. I mean, it's a pretty bipartisan mistrust of mine.
Yeah.
Do you think
so? This is a question I wanted to ask, right? So, I mean, we could sit here, Ryan and I can sit here, and you guys in the comments, we could sit here and we could talk about, slamming the government all day long, but is it healthy, and not necessarily healthy as in the term, compromise to your health, but mentally, right? And righteously, do we have an obligation not to trust our country? Or let me finish. Or would we be a better country if we could trust our government, like, 90, 100% of the time? You know what I'm saying?
I would say this. I would say in general, I give people benefit of the doubt. I do not do that with the government. If there's any doubt, no, not going the way of the government. And you said, would we be a better society if we trusted the government more? I wouldn't.
Not better.
Okay.
Like happier, healthier,
I think
more
so.
Prosperous.
I
right?
think so.
Like
I wish I could.
Handshaking, high-fiving, coming out of the house, not tripping out, not this other freaking divisive nonsense that's going on, right? Like if 80 to 90%, if that poll had flipped and it said 80% of the people trust the government, I would laugh. I would say there's no freaking way that's right because of all of the mess that's going on in society right now. So honestly, I wasn't 100% surprised at the number. I want to know, like, if that number was at 80, 90% of trust in the government, would we be a better society? That's the question,
Like you said, like healthier and stuff. Yeah, I think that, like, one, in general, stress kills. And not be able to trust your government, not be able to trust people near you, whatever it might be, that's stressful, and that's going to, take its toll. In general, honestly, I wish I could trust the government. Seriously, I really wish I could. I wish they could say, hey, you should really do this. And I would say, yeah. You said it, so you know what? I believe I should. Yeah, maybe I should. But I wish I could do that. Just like we were talking about houses and stuff earlier. I'm looking to buy a new property and stuff. And like I said, I wish I could live in a neighborhood like you live. And you live in a neighborhood, people all around and stuff. Like you could throw a rock and hit all the neighbors' houses and stuff next to you. Kids playing and stuff. I wish I could live in that. But the reality of the situation is that doesn't work for me. The reality of the situation when it comes to the trust of the government, like that just doesn't, me trying to trust the government to that to a level exceeding what I currently trust. It's not realistic. It doesn't make sense to me.
So somebody in the comments here says, drink a real beer, Ryan. Send them over. All right. Send us some beer. We'll feature them. We'll get them up there. Yeah, this is course. So
to be fair, who bought this?
This is me. Yeah,
what did I buy?
You bought Bud Light.
Not that it's much better.
Yeah.
But and what did I buy last time I came? Before that, Yingling, right?
Was it?
Yeah, Yingling.
Yeah.
Dan's beer. America's beer. Is that America's oldest beer?
It is the longest continuous operational brewery in the United States.
Yep.
All right, guys. So real quick, one more time here. Guys, hit that share button. Let people know you're listening to The Rock. Help us grow this mission. We're going to call this one quits for the day, guys. So with that.
Hey, I want to thank you guys for being in the comments, for real. Even though it's not like it's not hundreds of them. Every comment helps. All the shares help. I love looking down and be able to look at comments and be able to respond to them. Like Chris. Cheers, man. And with that, stay strapped.
This guy
What?
called me out on the podcast.
Ooh.
Your beer is still manlier than me vaping.
Are you on YouTube?
Yeah. But I know who that is. I know who Sticky Buns is. So I'm gonna have to send him a message. So hey, I see you, buddy. With that, Ryan, what'd you say?
We out. Stay strapped to get clapped.
All right.